Welcome back to the Finance and Tech Exchange. In today's episode, we're going to talk about endpoint protections versus antivirus. Know the difference. As you guys know, this is Sean. He's the person that helps keep hackers out of your systems. And I'm Viviana. I help business owners understand their numbers and make better decisions. So, Sean, how are you today? This is an interesting, very complex topic. I look forward to understand a little more about this difference.
Yeah, thanks. And thanks for the introduction. Yeah, I think there is the reason why this is probably worth diving into just a little bit. And this is not going to be a technical overview per se, but it's really to understand that antivirus and EDRs are not the same thing. I feel that speaking to different business owners, when they hear, hey, I have antivirus, hey, I have an EDR, it's well, okay, it's the same thing, right? Because
What is a ADR?
well, EDR stands for Endpoint Detection Response.
And what
So,
is that?
essentially, well, let's start first with antivirus because that's going to be
Okay.
the simple one. I want to be clear. It's not that it's not good to have. It's definitely good to have. It's better than having nothing. But unfortunately, is not enough for the protection you need today. And that's where EDR comes in, and that's
Mhm.
endpoint detection response. And there's a difference there. So antivirus is nothing new. For as long as we've been using computers, we've heard that terminology. Oh, I have an antivirus, or I pay for antivirus. Most people use free antivirus because there's some free options out there. Again, they're not. It's not that it's bad or not worth having. It's just not enough protection. It's really what I'm getting at. And I think the best ways to understand how antivirus works versus EDR.
Mhm.
So antivirus, and I'm going to try to keep this as simple as possible, but it looks for malware based on signatures or updates to a signature database. And the way we're going to try to, I guess, compare this is what does a security guard do at a door? So pretend the antivirus, the security guard, has a binder full of all these names of people that should not enter the building. So someone comes to the door, the security guard checks, sees that, hey, this person's name is on here. You're not permitted in, stops the person from coming into the facility. But if the next person comes in and their name is not on the list, well, he may or may not let that person in. So it's kind of a toss up. It depends. Maybe the person looks kind of suspicious. He says, "Oh, well, you don't. You are you sure you're supposed to be here?" Questions him, then lets him in. But he relies on the list. He relies on that registry, and that's traditionally a very simple explanation of how antivirus works. Now that comes with limitations because if there's new forms of attacks which happen every single day, the antivirus, again, he doesn't have the latest list, or he may get an update to his list, but too little too late. That person he shouldn't have let in already is in the building. Now, where does EDR come into play? EDR is, so let's go back to the security guard example. He doesn't depend on a list to let that person in. Instead, this security guard actually goes into the building and checks if someone is opening doors they shouldn't be. He looks to see if someone's tampering with the security cameras, trying to touch them or cover them or do something suspicious with them. If someone is trying to carry company property outside of the building, he's looking for that. So as you can see, he's not dependent on the list, but the actions of what people are doing within the building. And it could even be someone that's supposed to be in the building. So EDR, as you can see, it's a much more granular, in-depth approach to security versus antivirus. And that's why it's so important in today's age, especially at the rate of the increased forms of attacks that we see. You want to have a good EDR platform. And there's plenty out there. I'm not here to promote anyone specifically, Whether you want to have an EDR platform, and this is not even about business, this is business and personal. You really want to have that form of protection. So now let me go into what it's actually doing into the computer versus just looking for an antivirus would look for infected files, right? And then it would stop it or block it or clean it or whatever. So with the EDR, it's going to be looking at running programs. It's going to look at something called PowerShell, which in the world of Windows, it's how you run scripts to trigger actions on your computer, if you will. It can analyze what's going on in your computer memory, if there's any changes in your Windows registry. And I'm using Windows as an example because that's the most commonly used business platform, really. So, but this applies the same principles to other platforms as well. It's going to look for any type of lateral movement of credential attempts. And the big one, which obviously everyone knows the word ransomware, it can even establish and see patterns of encryption that are happening and stop it in its tracks. So this is why it's so important for us to really have EDR.
So let me ask you a question, and thanks for explaining that. That definitely makes a lot of sense.
Mhm,
And I think a lot of business owners probably have never heard of that term, EDR. I think at least I had not. When we think about protecting our computers, we want to make sure it has an antivirus, and we're like, okay, we're good to go. So, for example, and I see this, a lot of businesses, they just go buy a computer or like a personal.
mhm,
Like you said, this applies to business and personal. A lot of people just buy a computer and whatever it comes with a computer, that's for the most part, you feel like you have enough. Now,
mhm.
walk me through the steps or process that someone can check to see and make sure they're protected. So I think that's like an assumption that okay, when you go buy a computer, you may just go buy an antivirus. Or how does it work? What are the steps that you should do to make sure, like for example, if I bought a computer
Mhm.
in 2019, is that antivirus that came with a computer still good for me? Based on what you said, most likely not. So I
Mhm.
guess that's what I want to know. What are the layers of steps someone should take in their business and in their personal to ensure that they are implementing this EDR?
Yeah, and I think that's what you want to do. What you mentioned first with your example of buying a computer, let's say in 2019, came with some type of antivirus, which that happens a lot. When you buy a computer, back in the day, it would come with like Norton's or McAfee. And again, those platforms at the time, they did fine. They weren't the best, I don't think, but at any rate, they did what they were supposed to do, give you that baseline protection. If that's what you're still using, I would look into different vendors and look for top vendors that are recommended for, and you can do this with AI or Google or whatever, but just specifically look for the top rated vendors for EVR platforms. And you're going to get plenty of information there back from AI or Google. The main focus that I would say is make sure what you're using is EDR protection, not just an antivirus. If you bought a computer right now and it came with no antivirus, even Windows operating system itself has a built-in antivirus that comes basically free of charge. And again, it's not bad. It gives you that baseline protection. So you're not, even if you bought a Windows computer without any software added from the manufacturer, you still even then have some protection. It's just, I guess the main point I want to drive in here is that it's just not enough protection. So you want to say, okay, and if you're working with an IT vendor or a security service provider, ask them, say, hey, what platform or am I using or you're providing me right now for my security? Is it an antivirus or an EDR? Any reputable provider is gonna have you on an EDR. At least I hope. And if they don't, that's a huge red flag. And I would say, hey, why don't you have me with an EDR installed on my system or my systems?
Right. And what is and it goes back to the business. Obviously, we're talking about personal and maybe a solo business practice. But what about
Mhm.
businesses that have 10 computers, 10 employees, 20, 30? How does how does that look for a company with multiple employees? Do they have to have a different platform for them?
I think once you're getting into multiple computers, unless this is something you're committed to overseeing, which I would say if you're running a business of any sort, the last thing you want to do is commit 30, 40% of your time in the week to security and managing that. At that rate, with that many computers to oversee, if you have 7 to 10 employees or 7 to 10 computers you're managing, I would definitely say talk to a professional because there's platforms that have centralized management of systems and that's your service provider, whoever is your IT service provider, your security provider, they can manage all your systems and they have what's called like a glass pane view of all your systems and anything that looks malicious, they can monitor it more effectively and efficiently. Obviously you could do this yourself as well if you had the time to commit to it and you were comfortable enough with technology in general. But I think once you already have that many computers to manage, it's not worth the time yourself to manage that because if you're missing one or two steps along the process to ensuring not just having that security in place, because remember, every time I talk about security, I talk about it in layers. That's just one layer, EDR. It's an important layer. But you have to be able to use a combination of all those layers, especially EDR, to properly respond to an incident. Just because you have an EDR doesn't mean that you're not going to get hit or it's not going to trigger with something malicious on your computer. It's going to respond better and it's going to let the person responsible for providing a response to that to effectively deal with the situation properly.
So, would you know an attack was happening or only find out after it's finished?
Yeah, so the EDR and every platform is a little bit different. Number one, it'll usually trigger an alert. So you'll probably see an alert in your computer. You'll see the whoever's managing the EDR or wherever you're self-managing and you have, let's say, just one computer, you're running your business by yourself. You'll see an alert and you'll probably get like an email as well notifying you that it found this and it took this action. And the EDRs do a lot of things. Not only can they stop ransomware from really going across the entire system, but on top of that, they can even isolate the computer. So they can even trigger the computer to go into like a manufactured shutdown mode where it disconnects everything from the internet to it and only has connection to the EDR provider's systems so they can communicate with your computer. It's really and some systems are better than others, just like anything else. There's certain softwares that are better than others. Again, that's why I would talk to a professional, or if you do your own research, look for the top recommended EDR platforms. And if you're going to do this yourself, talk to whichever vendor that is that's providing that EDR. They'll be able to give you some good options if you explain to them your setup and what you're looking for. And yeah, I'm sure they'll point you in the right direction or your IT professional, whoever's providing you that service.
Yeah, no, this was a very good topic because I think most people that not IT experts, and when we think about computers, we just think antivirus. Or at least,
Mhm.
that's what I would say the majority would think. And from what I'm hearing today, yes, you want to have that, but you also want to have an extra layer of protection. And nowadays, it's just so it's not anymore, it's not a must, it's not a want, it's a need that
Mhm.
I think even like you say, even personal computers should look into that. Mm.
Absolutely.
And even more if you have a business, even if you have one or two computers, right? Now that you want to protect your business. So Sean, what is one thing like you want people to take away from this conversation?
I would say 3 key elements to this conversation is what I would focus on. Antivirus, Not that it's bad, but it looks for known threats. That's the main difference. Antivirus looks for known threats. EDR is watching for suspicious behavior. That's where it's going to be much more effective because modern cyber attacks today, they happen too quickly, and when they get triggered, they move too quickly within the system for signature-based systems to be able to respond to it, or at least for that to be the only protection against that. So you definitely want some type of EDR platform in your system.
Okay. Yeah, awesome. Yes, very good recommendation for everyone out there that wants to make sure to keep their personal and business information secure. That was a great one, Sean. So, what are the next week's topic? What are we looking at for next week?
Yeah, cybersecurity insurance, what it actually covers and what it doesn't.
Hmm, that's a good one. Look forward to hearing what you have to say about that.
Yeah, the reason why I think that's going to be a good one too is because unfortunately, sometimes some people can fall into the mentality of I have antivirus or have EDR and have all these layers of protection. So, or I don't need all that because, hey, I have cybersecurity insurance. So something
Yeah,
happens, I'm
I'm
covered.
covered. Yeah, that's a good one. So I look forward to hearing from you. Well, thanks again for joining us today. We really appreciate your time. If you found this video helpful, please like, subscribe, and share. And until the next one, have a good one.
All right. Have a good one. Talk soon.